Hey everybody, Tom here, and today in this video I want to teach you how to make a smaller miniatures box. Now, what do I mean by that? I've basically designed two types of boxes, both for Unmatched, but for different purposes, and this is the smaller version, and weirdly enough the smaller version fits into the larger box. I know that's confusing, but if you'd like to see the larger box, in the larger miniatures box in the small expansion box, you can click on the link and learn more about that or whatever. But anyway, let me show you kind of what I mean by this. So in this box, I have my character deck boxes. If you're interested in these, go visit my website at tomteachesgames.com and you can print these off and make them for yourself. But what I wanted to show you is this box is smaller to fit in this bigger box in that it fits right up here along with the other cards. Now, obviously this video is focused on the Unmatched box, that's how I'm making it, but it's entirely possible that I'll be reusing this design with different artwork and different dimensions for a different game. But if I linked you to this video, it's because it's the same template, so you can use that to make this. So essentially what we're going to be making is this one box that will hold several miniatures. Now I say this is a smaller box because I have a bigger box that holds essentially another row's worth of miniatures here. And so you can see kind of this is the general idea that we're making. This game or this box is actually customizable, and I'm going to tell you more about that in a minute, but basically this logo is optional, and I do have some tabs that you could put in if you want. So you could, in this video, and I'll show you how, but you could make it look just like this, or you could not have that logo showing, or I'll even have these character pieces like this that you could use to kind of designate different spaces for your characters. So that's what we're going to be making in this video. Now to make this project, you really only need a pair of scissors and some tape, though a paper cutter is also nice, and I'm going to show you kind of a fun trick using a cutting board, a butter knife, and a ruler. So those are also optional, but they're going to make one step pretty easy. You're also going to need to print off the pages, obviously. I have all of these things uploaded to Board Game Geek, but probably the easiest way to find all of my stuff if you want to browse is by going to tomteachesgames.com. There's a section there where I have do-it-yourself storage solutions, and from there you can find like Unmatched and yada yada. But when you print this file, you're going to have a few pages there. You're going to have a lid, a base, and these are nearly identical, so we'll talk more about those in a little bit. You're going to have this for the riser. This is going to be like the middle piece that allows your minis, like the stands to, this is going to be the middle piece that holds things into place basically. And you'll notice it will have like a bunch of lines. And then finally, probably the last page, again, definitely for Unmatched, maybe for other boxes, I will have these, little tabs that you can put onto the riser to designate where characters go and customize it however you want to. I really debated just printing these on the riser, but I didn't want the responsibility of like getting the right characters in the right place, and there are so many expansions, different people have different things, so I'm going to let you decide if and where you want to put those. But these are the things that you're going to need, so go ahead if you need to pause the video to assemble all of that stuff together and get things printed. I just have things printed on just some standard cardstock. Like I just went to Walmart, I found a $5 pack of cardstock, so it's nothing super thick or anything like that, but this always works really good for my projects, so that's what I do. 8.5 by 11 page, color copy, single-sided, so you can just go ahead and print these things off and gather your supplies together and then come back here and let's learn how to make it. We're going to start by making the base, and like I said, the lid is the exact same, so I'm going to focus on the base, and you'll by learning that also learn how to do the lid. But let's go ahead and start there. Once you have your pages printed, the first thing we're going to want to do is cut out the outside shape of these pages. So I always design these things in Microsoft Word, and Word takes into account margins, and margins are mostly there because most people's home printers won't print all the way to the edge of the page. Now the reason I'm saying this is the base of this particular design is really easy to cut out the outside. It's just these dotted lines here all the way around the outside. So I'm going to use my paper cutter to just cut the outside like that. Now for the lid is just a teensy tiny bit bigger than the base so that it can slide on. But it was just big enough that because of the margins, you actually can't see the dotted line right here. And so I am just going to go ahead and cut right there on that line, and then we'll cut these other ones here. So just keep that in mind as you're printing and cutting. When I post this, I'm going to try one more time to see if I could slide this over just enough to get that dotted line showing. But if it's not showing, just be aware you probably just want to slice it right there. And with the tripod sitting here, it's a little awkward for me to use the paper cutter around the tripod, so I have the paper cutter off screen. I'm going to go ahead and make those cuts now. And again, if you wanted to follow along, pause the video, go ahead and cut out those, and then come back here. And I'll just say really fast, I'm going to cut right inside of the dotted line. I don't really want the dotted line to be showing when all is said and done, so I will be cutting right inside of the dotted line. You may want to do that too. All right, so I've got these cut right here. Again, just cutting around the border. Next up, let's go ahead and just take our scissors, and we're going to make some cuts. Now, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to look, there should be 4 dotted lines inside the shape. So one right here, here, and there's short lines here and here. Let's go ahead and cut on those. In my designs, I like to do dotted lines as cut lines, solid lines as fold lines. Rumor has it that's different than most paper crafting, but I don't really want to see dotted lines after I fold. So, I don't know. I do what I want. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and cut these 4 dotted lines, and I'm just going to focus on the base. I'll be doing the same thing with the lid off camera, but there's no point in watching me do the same thing twice. Okay, so first step is cut on the dotted lines. Now the second step is going to be kind of optional. It's just a nice thing. This part's going to be hidden, but we're going to be folding over these tabs. And if we don't make this next cut I'm about to make, sometimes those folds get a little bit off. So I'm basically just going to cut almost parallel to what we just did on this side of that rectangle and just at a slight angle. So something like this. You see that? I just cut off kind of a triangle shape. I'll do the same thing up here. Okay, and the same thing on these sides. And right here. Just a real slight angle so that we can fold over those a little more easily. Now for a really similar reason, I'm going to make some cuts on this really long blank rectangle here at the end. I'm going to basically turn that rectangle into a trapezoid by cutting a triangle off like that. And we'll do the same thing over here. I'll try not to cut myself, it's a little awkward on camera. And we'll do the same thing on this other rectangle on this side. Basically like that. Okay, so now we have all of the cutting done that we need to do. Next up is we're going to fold. We're going to fold on each of these solid lines. Now you might think that it would make most sense to fold this way, keep the printing side up and fold because you can kind of see, but I actually found that I'm way less precise doing it that way than if I turn this upside down. And the reason is, first of all, your cut lines kind of hint to where all of your folding lines are. Secondly, as you're pulling this side, you're going to be able to see the solid line show up, where if we were doing it this way, you wouldn't really know exactly where the solid line was. But this way, as you pull this tab, you're going to see the solid line and you'll note a crease. So let's start with those 4 rectangle tab-like things. I usually pull until I see the solid line, and then I use my thumbnail to crease it. So let's start there. Pull it until we see the solid line. Depending on how good your cuts were, that will make this a little easier or harder. And go ahead and do that. Pull until you see a solid line. And we'll go, oh, that wasn't great. Just like that. Okay, next fold, let's do this one right here. So I'm going to take this side, and again, your cut marks are really going to help you. You just pull it until the cut marks line up, and or you see that solid line on the side and crease it. And we'll turn this around and do the same thing over here. Crease it like that. Okay, now we're going to have 2 more lines on each side. So usually what I do is, keep in mind your triangles should help you. There's a solid line right at the base of these triangles going across. So I'm just going to take my fingers and I just kind of pull it down until I see the solid line, and then I push down and crease it. I kind of do like a weak crease to start off just to get it in the right place. Oops, sorry for bumping the camera. I'm working around it. And then I'll just crease it once with my thumb. Then we're going to take this, and you might be wondering why I'm not using the butter knife trick I'm about to teach you. And I will explain that when I show you the butter knife trick. I don't think it's that useful on this part, but you could try it if you want. I know I haven't told you what it is, but you might have guessed already. Oops, okay, so I'm just going to Make sure I've got the dotted line there. Again, it's a little awkward for me to be working around the tripod, but we'll do the best. And then I'm going to pull and get that other fold right there. Now, most of my designs are a lot more complicated than this. This is the simplest design I have. And while simplicity is nice, one downfall to simplicity is the boxes aren't as strong. On most of my designs, I try to make sure that the sides of the boxes have 2, 3, or sometimes even 4 layers so that they're stronger. This is basically going to be like 1 layer. So it's not great, but because of the size of this box, that's how it had to be. Anyway, what we're going to do now is get our corners. Take this thing here, and again, most of you probably already figured it out. We're just going to wrap this up and around like this to be a corner. You want to make sure your corner's not too far in, make sure it's not too far out. I usually just feel it, wrap that around, and I pinch right here and hold it in place. Then grab a small piece of tape, and the goal of this piece of tape is to hit three layers. Let me show you what I mean. Can you see those 3 layers right there? We have the back, the front, and the side, or the middle right there. So just get a small piece of tape to hit all 3 layers so that it can stay in place. Let's do the next one. Wrap it down and around, make sure the corner is the way you want it to be. Pinch it, small piece of tape big enough to hit all 3 layers like that. Now you're going to notice this middle part is kind of bowing out a little bit, so you kind of want to pinch that, grab a big piece of tape, and I like to start at the top and then apply pressure as I work down, and that should take care of that little bowing out part. All right, and you may even want to take a second and pinch that just to make sure that it's nice and square. Super easy enough. Again, if you've seen any of my other boxes, this is a heck of a lot simpler than those. Okay, small piece of tape. Let's hit all 3 parts. A small piece of tape. Hit all 3 parts. It's going to bow a little bit there, so we're going to get a big piece of tape, go from the top. Now you could kind of use glue, but I just find glue to be too messy. It never holds as long as I want it to. I just think tape is so nice and easy and clean, and I love it. All right, that is the base of the box. Now you can follow those exact same instructions for the lid of the box, and I went ahead and did that off screen, and that looks like this. So I'll just keep this to the side for now. Okay, for our next step, what we're going to do is we're going to make the riser for the middle. Now for this one, what we're going to do is, again, you're going to see an outline of dots, a dotted line on the outside. Go ahead and use your paper cutter and cut that out. And this is where we're going to learn the trick with the cutting board, ruler, and the butter knife. So if you want to, go ahead and get that one cut out and prepare these things and come right back here. I'm going to go ahead and cut that off screen and we'll be ready to go. Okay, so here's mine that's cut. Now, let's talk about the butter knife trick. I mostly use this trick when I'm doing folds that go all the way through the paper from like top to bottom or from all the way from one side to the other. With the boxes, you almost are always folding like little pieces and then folding it all together. So that's one reason that I didn't use this trick before. The more important reason though is when you have 2 folds close together, that's when this trick really comes in handy, because if you don't do this trick, then sometimes these 2 folds kind of like roll together. You don't get like very crispy lines the middle gets a little bit mushy. So here's the trick. Cutting board so you can use a good amount of pressure without ruining your table. Put your ruler down. We're going to be folding on every single one of these lines. Take a butter knife. Now the reason this trick came about was I'm 100% amateur. Everything that I do on this channel for do-it-yourself stuff is just my own making. And as time has gone on, people have been really good about recommending various tools to help me with this. I've avoided those tools because I really want my projects to be anybody can do these at home with minimal tools. Like everything fits on an 8.5 by 11 page because I don't want you to have to get special paper. Things like that. So here's the trick. You just take a butter knife and not the serrated side, like not the part that you would normally use when cooking or whatever, but let's use the back end. And hopefully your butter knife, like as far as I know, they'll always have just a gentle curve right there, so nothing too pointy at all. And what we're going to do is we're just going to use that back end of the knife, and we're just going to hold that ruler in place and just push with as much pressure as you can, and you're basically scoring that paper without cutting it. You're just putting a good fold mark in there. Now I did try to use this, like I thought a pizza cutter would be a good idea, and the reason why a pizza cutter doesn't work I found myself straying from the ruler a lot, but when I hold the butter knife like this, I find that I have a lot more control and I get it in a straight line. Where with the pizza cutter, I was not getting that. Even though, I mean, if you're good at pizza cuttering, maybe that would be a better option, but this seems to work out perfectly for me. All right, and then usually what I do is I turn the page, and especially because I'm working around the tripod, that'll be easier. But we're basically just scoring all of these. Now, on my large box, the large box basically consists, I'm calling these risers, right? The large box, I messed up. The large box consists of 3 smaller risers, and you basically layer your minis in 3 layers. Sorry, I just ate lunch. This one just has one big riser in the middle, and you put minis on the top and the bottom, kind of laying in opposite directions. Now, I mention that because you're going to have a decision to make right after we score this. You're going to need to decide if you want the logo showing the way that I have here, okay? Or if you think you're going to be using these colorful tabs, you probably don't want the logo showing because the tabs are going to cut off parts of the logo. So since I already have one box done with the logo showing, I'm going to actually make this one the other way, but you can choose. Do you want the logo showing or not? Basically, what I'm going to say is, if you want the logo showing, turn this upside down and fold this way, okay? Get your creases going that direction. If you're going to hide the logo, fold the other way. Keep the logo face up, and let's just go ahead and emphasize those what do you call those? Perforations? I don't know what you call it. Those creases that we put in. We're just going to go ahead and make sure that they are nice and folded. And again, I'm holding the logo, or I'm hiding the logo, so that's why I'm going in this direction here. And we'll go like that, okay? I mean, I'm done with the cutting board. All right, now, one other fold that you're going to want to do is this. So I'm going to hide the logo. This is going to be the top like this. On the ends, you want the ends to be folded the opposite of what you just did. So for me, hiding the logo, I'm going to take just that last part and fold it the other direction. Okay? And again, just do the opposite. If you're going to show the logo, all of them are going this way, and your last fold will go the other way. You'll see what I mean in just a second. But basically, all of your folds are going to go one direction except the 2 on the ends. Okay. So here's what we're doing. On the big box, you have 3 small risers, and they're literally just rectangles. Okay, not that exciting. This shape is going to be a little more complicated because this riser is so thick, I want the middle to be supported. And so the way we're going to support the middle is like this. So I'm hiding the logo. I'm going to wrap this down and around until it creates a rectangle. Can you see what I'm doing? I'm going to create a rectangle like that. And I'm going to leave this part out so that that's going to be the place that I tape. And so I'm basically, to hide the logo, just going to run that like that and tape it. If you want to show the logo, you're going this way. Okay. And then you're going to tape it like that. Okay, you get it. You get it. I'm just trying to be clear but not annoying. All right. So what I like to do is I kind of just like to feel it out. I like to just use my fingers and press until it feels like a pretty good 90-degree angle. Grab some tape, tape one side, tape the middle, tape this side. Okay, and that's going to be one side, and you could see when we put our mini, the base right here, it's just going to have a little bit of support there in the middle. And especially if we do this other side, same thing, rectangle, feel it out. And let's drop a little bit of tape. Cool. And so you could see that this riser now has 2 points of support on the top. It's not really going to sag down at all. And maybe yours has the logo showing like this one does, and that's great. Okay, next up, what we're going to do is we're going to take the base, and we've got to figure out a way to get this in here and in the right spot. I'm noticing this is kind of flying up just a little bit. I'm just going to grab a little tape so it doesn't annoy me in the future. Oh, and let's just do that again over here. It's not a big deal, but if I'm making this, I want it to look nice. Get a little tape in that corner too. Sure. Okay. If you have double-sided tape, this is amazing here. You could even use glue, whatever. I like to use tape just because it's there and it's easy. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to roll 3 pieces of tape, however you want, but I'm going to put a roll, 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 roll. So let's go ahead and do that. I mean, what better YouTube content than watching somebody roll tape? Oh, I don't really know why I went that direction. Should be going the long direction, like that. Okay, sure. Now, I don't remember if I said this at the top. I think I did, but it's possible that you're going to be making this insert for a different game than Unmatched. In which case, this next step might be a tiny bit different, but I just wanted to give you a tip to make sure that this gets aligned correctly. You could do your best to put this in the base and just put it in the middle as closely as possible. Like you could just feel it out. Or my tip is take some of your minis and your bases. So what I'm saying is this game has these bases that you can remove. It's possible in the future I'm going to do a game that doesn't have that. So I'm just going to grab 4 of these, if I can. Just 4 of these bases. And kind of like tile, like if you're tiling something, I don't know if you've done, like there are spacers when you tile stuff. I'm going to lay these in here. Almost looks like a car, right? Oh, it's again a little tricky to do with the camera. But this is how much space I want on the top and the bottom of this riser. And I'm just going to do my best around this tripod to get that into place. And I'm just not going to put any pressure until it is where I want it to be. Oh my gosh, come on. Sorry, I got to ignore the camera for a second. My things fell down. Okay, well we got those 2 in place. Now we can put these 2 in place. And once you get it where you want it, go ahead, something like that. Oh, premium YouTube content right here. Okay, and there you go. We've got a little riser there that once your minis are set up, they can lay in there. The bases should stay pretty, the bases will help them stay in place and stuff like that. Okay, so that's the general one, and especially if you have your logo, you're done. But I do have one more thing as an option if you like this idea or not. I have these small tab-like things. You can see I've named the expansion up here across the top. But what we're going to do is we're just going to cut out these tabs, and I'm just going to cut the whole row of tabs. So I'll be right back. I'm going to do that off camera. And we've got these here. Now what we're going to do, the idea here is that this can just label where you want your characters to go. And this box, so I think currently there are 15 figures in the box. This box, if you keep the dinosaurs around, will hold 13 of them. Like I'm going to fit everybody except for Bigfoot or Robin Hood just because they were a pack. And then I'll try to talk about those. And here, let me talk about this one for right now. King Arthur is a little tricky because, for example, if you try to lay him like this, he doesn't fit very well because his cape is kind of jutting out that way. Bigfoot has a really similar problem. I don't see where Bigfoot is right now, but Bigfoot's base has a bunch of like bubbles for moss or I don't know, whatever. So he doesn't lay in there very easily. But with King Arthur, for example, and with Bigfoot, if you put them upside down, like if you have them facing their face towards the insert, they fit a lot better. So just to keep an eye out for that. Bigfoot and King Arthur for now are the 2 that you kind of need to put upside down to fit. Anyway, the idea is that we can label where the different characters are going. So what I'm going to do here, let me just use, because this one's short, I'm going to go ahead and just cut the ones I don't want yet. I just have these for future expansions. What we're going to do is we're going to basically create like a seat kind of a thing. So here's what I mean. We're going to start this way, and I'm going to fold this tab right above their words. I did my best to match the color to the plastic for their base. And again, if I was smart, I would be using the knife trick right now, the butter knife trick, but I'm trying to just finish this video. And then let's flip it over and go the other way. Okay. All right, so let me show you what we just did, and I'll give you one more tip as we go along. Because this riser is like pure white, you don't really want a lot of black lines around the edge. So once you've got your folds, it's really easy to fold them all together and then cut, instead of cutting and then folding them individually. But the idea here is, for Bruce Lee, let's cut right inside of the black line like this. And then we're going to cut inside of the black line for Sherlock there, just so that those black lines don't stand out as they're in the box. So for Sherlock, we'll just go inside, and then let's trim a little bit. I'm just basically trying to cut off those black lines separating the characters on the page so they're not so obvious and ugly. Like this and like this. Now the reason I didn't pre-print these on the risers are, I imagine everybody's going to have different expansions, so I don't want to deal with that, but also everyone's going to want these in different places. And so the idea here is line up your figures however you want them. I don't know that I'll get very specific, but let's say I want Bruce Lee right here. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to put, and I won't do this on camera right this second, but I'm going to put either a dab of glue, a roll of tape, or some double-sided tape right there. And you can just lay him inside like that. And that way his name is kind of showing in two places, and that's going to be the color of the stand so you can see. And that will be the space for Bruce Lee to fit right there. And it's nice and snug. Like, you can actually feel a little bit of pressure as you put it in. Let's say I want Sherlock Holmes on this side, then I'll go ahead and get a little bit of tape or glue, or you can just leave it loose in case you think you're going to be changing people around, and we'll get Sherlock right there. Okay, Dracula, wherever you want him, and you get him in just like that. And then once you have all of your figures in where you want them, go ahead and your lid, it'll be a little bit snug, it's supposed to be, but snug. You know, it's a little bad because sometimes it feels like you're bending your paper, but snug is good because then it doesn't come off. And the way that this fits in the box, you've probably seen. We'll just get our deck boxes here. That goes right there. I tried to make it just a little bit skinnier so you can get your finger in and pull it out really easily. That was intentional. And you can fit one row of cards on top of that box if you want. And you're still going to be able to fit your maps, and they still will be basically flush with the lid. So that is how to make one of my smaller miniatures boxes. I hope that video was helpful for you. Thank you for watching. If you want to see more projects like this, go ahead and look at tomteachesgames.com. I'm out of breath because it is about 85 degrees in this house right now. Thank you for watching. I will talk to you later. Goodbye.